You've done everything right. You worked hard for 30 years. You saved when it wasn't easy. And then you've watched your account grow, and now you're months away from retirement. You've got this fear that's sitting in the back of your mind that you can't shake. What happens if the market drops the year I retire? Or what if I run out of money in my 80s? Or what if I make one wrong move and then I lose everything I worked for? Here's what I see every single week. People have read the books, they watch the videos, they know about the three buckets and the 4% rule and all the rest of those things. But when you actually ask them how they'll handle a market drop in year one of retirement, or which account they need to pull from first, or what to do when their savings stops growing and then starts shrinking, they don't have an answer because no one has actually told them. Give me 9 minutes. I'm going to walk you through 5 improvements that turn a normal retirement portfolio into one that's measurably better. I'm Tyler Batts. I'm a financial planner, and I work with people on these exact questions every single day. Let's get into it. And real quick, if you want someone to actually apply this to your specific portfolio and tell you exactly what to adjust, that's what I do at Riverbend. There's a link in the description below to book a free discovery call. All right, technique number 1. Here's what happens. A retiree opens her statement at the end of a bad year. The market's down, and she still needs to pay her bills. So she sells her investments at a loss to cover her expenses. Now, even when the market recovers a year later, the money she sold is still gone. She locked in that loss. And this is the most expensive mistake I see in retirement. And it happens because most people manage their retirement money as one big pile. When they need cash, they sell whatever is most convenient, even if it's the worst possible thing to sell at that moment. The fix is to split your retirement money into 3 buckets based on when you'll actually need it. Bucket number 1 is the cash buffer. This is the money you spend in the near term, high yield savings, short-term treasuries, money market funds. Bucket number 2, that would be bonds, conservative dividend payers, CDs. This produces income while you're not touching bucket number 3, which would be growth, which is mostly stocks, and this is all long-term money. Now, how do you decide how much goes in each bucket? Most videos give you a generic answer like 20%, 30%, 50%. And that's just the wrong way to do it. The right amount in each bucket depends on your expenses, not on your total savings. Here's the method. Start with your essential monthly expenses, the bills that you have to pay no matter what. That's the mortgage or rent, utilities, food, insurance, healthcare. Then multiply that by 12 to get your annual essentials. Your cash bucket should hold 1 to 3 years of those essential expenses. Your income bucket should hold years 3 through 10. And then your growth bucket holds everything else. Let me give you an example. A retiree has $35,000 a year in essential expenses. Cash bucket holds 2 years, so that's $70,000. Income bucket holds 7 years, so that's $245,000. And then the rest of his savings sits in the growth bucket. 2 retirees with the same $1 million saved might have completely different bucket structures because their expenses look different. And that's how it should be. Once the buckets are sized, here are 2 rules that make them actually work. Rule number 1, in a year when the market is up, you can refill the cash from growth. Take some of the gains, then move them down to cash, and then reset the system. Rule number 2, in a year when the market is down, you don't need to touch the growth. You spend from the cash and you let your investments sit there and recover. When you follow these 2 rules, you stop selling at a loss during downturns, which is the single most expensive mistake retirees make. You also stop letting your cash bucket drain to zero during good years, which is the second most expensive mistake. The improvement here isn't theoretical. Over a 25-year retirement, this single setup can preserve hundreds of thousands of dollars by removing the one decision that destroys retirements. All right, technique number 2. A man retires in January. By October, the market is down 30%. His account statement looks worse than it's looked in 15 years. He's got bills to pay, he has no income coming in anymore, and his entire retirement is sitting in front of him on a screen that just got 30% smaller. This is the moment that wrecks retirements. And it's not just the market drop itself, it's the decision the retiree makes in response to it. Here's the protocol if this happens to you. Step 1, you do not look at the growth bucket. That money has 10 or more years to recover, and it should recover. Selling any of that right now turns a paper loss into a permanent one. Step 2, you spend from cash. That bucket exists for this exact moment. This is what you were saving cash for. Not for emergencies in the traditional sense, but for the moment the market lets you down right when you need it the most. Step number 3, you do not refill cash from growth this year. You break the rule from the first move temporarily because the rule only applies in up years. In a down year, you spend from cash and you let the growth bucket sit there untouched. And in step 4, you wait. The average bear market in modern history lasts about 14 months. The longest one in the last 50 years took about 3 years to recover. And then if you have a diversified portfolio and do strategic rebalancing, it could be even less. If you have 3 years of cash, you can ride out almost any historical downturn without selling your investments at a loss. The retirees who handle market drops in early retirement are the ones who decided exactly what they would do before the drop happened. The retirees who get destroyed by market drops are the ones who try to figure it out in the moment when they're scared. All right, technique number 3. A retiree has $1 million total, about $600,000 in traditional 401k, $200,000 in a Roth IRA, and about $200,000 in a regular brokerage account. He knows about the bucket strategy. He just doesn't know which money to put in which bucket. Here's the logic that nobody walks through clearly. Your Roth IRA should mostly be in the growth bucket. The whole reason you have a Roth and that it's valuable is that everything inside it grows tax-free for the rest of your life. So you want it doing the most growing. Putting Roth money in cash means you're wasting the tax advantage on an account that isn't going to grow that much. Save the Roth for the long-term money. Your traditional 401k or IRA should mostly fund the income bucket and part of the growth bucket. There's a wrinkle here. When you turn 73, the IRS forces you to start pulling money out of these accounts whether you want it or not. So you want some of this money in the income-producing investments by the time those required withdrawals hit because you're going to have to pull it out anyway. Your regular brokerage account is the most flexible. Long-term capital gains taxes are lower than ordinary income taxes, and then you can access that at any time. So a brokerage account is a great place for your cash bucket and a great place for the early years of your income bucket. Here's why this matters. 2 retirees with the exact same total savings can have completely different tax bills in retirement based on which money is in which type of account. Getting this right can save you tens of thousands of dollars over a long-term retirement, which is money that stays in your pocket. And a quick reminder, if you want someone to actually walk through your specific situation and tell you what to adjust, that's exactly what we do at Riverbend. There's a link in the description below. All right, let's move on. All right, technique number 4. A retiree turns 65 and does what he thinks is the responsible thing. He moves almost everything in his portfolio to bonds and cash. And he tells himself he's playing it safe. He doesn't want to lose his savings now that he's not earning anymore. Then 25 years later, he's 90 years old. His account balance looks roughly the same as it did when he retired. But here's what he didn't account for. $1 in 1999 buys about half of what it would buy today. The grocery bill that was $400 a month is now $800. The same vacation costs twice as much. His money didn't grow, but his cost of living almost doubled. In real terms, he's significantly poorer than he was at retirement. This is the trap of going too conservative too early. When you retire at 65, you might have 30 more years to fund. That's a long time. And over 30 years, inflation will roughly cut the purchasing power of your money in half, and it could be more. If your portfolio isn't growing, your retirement is shrinking slowly and quietly. The fix is to keep a meaningful portion of your portfolio in growth investments for the entire retirement, not the entire portfolio. The growth bucket I talked about earlier, but that growth bucket needs to be a real percentage, not a small leftover. A very rough guideline, and things can always change based on your risk tolerance and your risk capacity, is at 65, you need somewhere between 40 and 60% of your portfolio in diversified growth investments. At 75, maybe that's 30 to 50%. At 85, maybe 20 to 40%. The exact number depends on your situation, but the principle is the same. You don't stop needing growth just because you stop working. The retirees who think playing it safe means moving everything into bonds end up taking a different kind of risk. The risk that their money won't keep up with the cost of living. The risk that they'll run out of purchasing power even if they don't run out of dollars. Keeping growth in your portfolio for the entire retirement is not reckless. It's just the opposite. It's how you make sure the money you worked your whole life to save actually buys the life you saved it for. Technique number 5. When the market dropped nearly 20% in 2022, many investors didn't just experience the decline of the market itself. They made emotional decisions that made the damage worse. Research from Dalbar's quantitative analysis of investor behavior has shown for decades that the average investor consistently underperforms the market. That's largely because of behavior, which is the panic selling, emotional reactions, and then the poor timing decisions. In other words, the biggest risk to a portfolio often isn't the market, it's the investor's response to the market. This happens every cycle. Markets fall, fear rises, people sell near the bottom, then they miss the recovery that follows. Dalbar's research has found that the average equity investor has historically underperformed the S&P 500 by roughly 2 to 5% annually over many periods. Not because their investments were inherently bad, but because the investor behavior disrupted long-term compounding. They sold near the bottom, locked in the losses, and missed the recovery when it came. Over a 30-year retirement, that gap compounds into hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost wealth. Here's the rule that prevents it. Before the market drops, you decide what you're going to do. You write it down. What's my cash reserve? When do I refill from growth? What's my hard rule for not selling stocks during a bear market? What's my response if the market drops 20%? Then what about 30%? When the market actually drops, you don't make decisions. You execute the plan you already made. The plan was written when you were calm. You don't get to override it when you're scared. The first 4 moves I just walked through only work if you stick to them when the market is testing your nerves. The cash bucket only protects you if you actually spend from it instead of selling stocks. The refilling rule only works if you actually follow it. The protocol for the first year of retirement only works if you've decided in advance what you're going to do. The most valuable skill you can develop in retirement is the discipline to do nothing when the market drops. The retirees who do nothing end up significantly wealthier than the retirees who feel compelled to act. Doing nothing is not laziness, it's the entire game. So those are the 5 techniques. But if you want to see what a properly run retirement portfolio actually produces in monthly income, I made a video that walks through that right here. I go through 2 real scenarios, a married couple and a single person, both with $1 million, showing what their actual monthly income looks like when you factor in Social Security, taxes, and a withdrawal strategy. I'll see you there.